Just had somebody join online. Is that you? We just had somebody join us online. Is that you, Rebecca?
It is me.
Perfect. Okay, well, I think we're right here at 3 o'clock. I'm going to hand it over to kind of go through and for the roll call. You have that up in front of you, may I use yours really quickly? Perfect. I'll start with the roll call and I'll hand it over to you for the approval of the agenda. First up, Cameo Flood.
Here.
Susan Mace. Kathy Niner.
Here.
Jack Rinck. Here. Amber Schaefer. Tom let us know that he won't be here today. We will have Marilyn join you. She's going to be a little bit late. Rebecca Dawson.
Here.
Travis Hopper. Here. And then David Ley. Here. John Newman. Commissioner Slot. Right, and then Marilyn's going to join us hopefully in just a little bit. Thank you all. We've got a quorum. I'm going to hand it over to you to start running through everything.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? I'll move to approve the agenda. Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Couple of minutes. You all should have seen them online. Is there a motion to that effect? So moved. Second? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Are we gonna, is there any member of the public here? I don't see anybody, so we'll skip that and move on to number 4, which is old business, and that means you're up, David.
Okay, guys, so where we're at on the digital storytelling committee is we have about 3 hours of content that we have shot. That was done with that grant that we got with MCT and using the actors provided by the Missoula community. We haven't cut that, we haven't spliced that, we haven't turned that into a digital product yet. One of the issues that some of the issues that we've been having was that the committee, the collaborative process that brought this idea forward hasn't really been there for the collaborative execution of this project. And it's moved outside the scope of, I guess, what I initially proposed, which was a digital storytelling campaign where we would be taking the voices of folks serving in service positions or on these elected boards or subcommittees or stuff like that. And we would bring those voices to the Missoula public and let them see why this matters. And I think with me personally, it's kind of slowed down because I don't feel like I'm qualified to be telling anybody anything. And this project took a turn where we were writing scripts and having actors, and it really moved outside the scope of where I just wanted to go take a video camera and talk to the sewer board and then put that video, make that available to the public. And so it did take on some wheels and kind of grew outside of what we initially thought. But that being said, we still have 3 hours of content, including Dan Clark telling stories. And so we have a lot of stuff that we can make into something. It just hasn't taken that next step yet.
What do you think it would take to?
Somebody with a little more creativity, I guess. I don't know exactly how to tell the story. I mean, I wrote a script and we got the actors to say certain things, but it felt very scripted. It doesn't feel authentic what we have on camera. It's not. And so
why did the switch happen from your original vision to using actors?
I think it was the immediacy of the municipal elections coming up that was targeted as an initial good scale pilot project for this. But that also required the switch and going from folks learning to actors.
What happened to the steering committee? Is it didn't over?
Yep. So we initially started with 4. Adjourn left the committee pretty early or about halfway through, and it's been hard to get folks to show up.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact of the matter when folks volunteer, we're already start spending thin. And so, And there was multiple times where like I'd show up or we'd have a meeting and I'd be the only one there for 30 minutes or so. And then just got tired of waiting for folks. So the collaboration hasn't been there on the back end, and I'm not throwing any shade, right? But like, I just don't know how. I feel pretty pompous, like trying to script things and tell actors what to say. And it felt like that too when we had some folks coming in, like we tried it with an educator. We got a teacher coming in that was a middle school civics educator. And I was like, hey, say this. And then he would not want to say it. And he'd like say his thing. And I was just like, oh man, it's not like this is kind of like cool. So
Do you think it's worth continuing?
I think that we have a lot of stuff. I think we have about 3 hours of content, including a lot of what Dan Clark did. And I think that some of that is salvageable. I just would need help kind of shaping that. Or Susan has expressed interest in wanting to continue with it as well. But it would just need more eyes on, more of a deliberative
How
process.
many minutes are you hoping for to finish product?
We initially talked about trying to get a 3 to 5 minute like video, and then we broken up between the 3 municipal positions of city council, judge, and then mayor. But we also thought about doing like super clips or like short snippets of like 20-second anecdotes that Dan Clark's doing, like with the chicken ordinance, where he talks about, you know, the charter rules of a municipality of Missoula City versus Missoula County and some of those differences. But it just, I think we learned a lot and we learned how to do this. We just haven't crossed the finish line.
So it sounds like what you're looking for is somebody who is skilled in editing.
That would be great. Like,
Take on 3 hours.
Ron from MCT is willing to do that, and that's part of the grant that we got from them. And it's identifying, Susan, you know, but it's identifying like how to tell that story.
Ron isn't the right person for that.
I don't think that's like how he sees his role in this. He sees his role as more just technical.
Okay.
Instead of shaping the story and just taking the minutes that we did, we go from 116 here to 142 here, and then snip that with this. So he wants like a script like that to be given to him.
David, have you gotten any help from media arts at the university? That's what they do.
We haven't connected with anybody over there
Maybe
yet.
a student wants to take it on as a
Yeah.
project.
You guys can go.
That's.
There's also folks at the Big Sky Pop Fest,
Okay.
and then there's Story House. Maybe we can talk later. So I'm happy to reach out to either of those other 2 organizations, but I think we'd want to reach out to them with a super clear ask. Okay. Can you help us turn this 3 hours into 5 minutes?
Mhm.
And this is our goal. You'd have to come up with the words on what the goal is.
Yeah.
This is the story we want to tell. When people walk away, we want to tell them blank.
That's a unique area because a lot of what we were looking at, it's really challenging to utilize a spokesperson like David was saying. You don't want former Mayor Hess to be the spokesperson about what it's like to be a mayor because it's so hotly charged around the election aspect. Here, did you support this mayor? Did you not? Where Dan Clark was a pretty good resource. But then finding somebody who wanted to jump in and be, I would like to be the city council person,
Yeah.
became really hard to find that person. So then when it transitioned to actors, the actors were great about jumping in, recording, but when I was, that's exactly that skill set of editing and producing. When we needed to get our election judge videos done, we leaned so heavily on 1-acre films, and we actually had paid to help make sure that we got a professional edit, and that's where how much that cost. We were able to, so I remember the election judge videos that we shot most recently. They also did our integrity videos. And I want to say those were like 18,000 for the integrity videos. The election judge videos were, we had coordinated with them, and the Association of Clerk and Reporters provided a stipend. I want to say about $5,000. And that produced 6 videos. So they're not inexpensive, but then you gain this ability and the skill set that very few people tend to have. I definitely am no pro in video editing. And it sounds so easy. Well, hop on iTunes and click here, but there's a lot more to it.
There's also there's also a consideration that like when this project switched gears from sewer board, like actual lived experience to something scripted, we moved into that gray area of not just telling somebody to vote, but telling somebody why to vote. And I reached out to the municipal judges, I reached out to city councilors, I reached out to former Mayor Hess. I tried to have conversations and tried to have those so I could get that authentic input into this. And I was able to meet with one city councilor and I didn't get a lot of input. So
You're saying those folks just didn't want to participate?
ignored my emails. I wasn't able to make contact, so
So it's like they said, no. They
yeah,
just-
we didn't connect.
And so is it accurate to say your first choice would have had former electeds or current electeds talking as opposed to doing the actors?
I think so. When I initially talked about this, it was I think born out of the sewer board of the ceiling, the fact that a minor elected board is able to have on a community over generations. And I was really hoping to kind of capture some of that and get that just from the horse's mouth, opposed to making scripts and telling people what to say. It really turned.
But they didn't want to talk.
We I guess pinned that one in for next year after we did this part of it. This was identified as the pilot. I think it's still all possible. This is just where we're at right now.
So we're already at with all this.
We've
What's the next step?
We've got 3 hours of content. We just have to go through that. Somebody needs to go through that content, figure out how we're going to cut it up, and then get it to the bonds.
So the next step is to put this in.
Chat, I'll, let's see when I think I find it. And then, chat, that's the, that's. Such a.
There's, but during COVID, almost all of the board meetings were recorded. And I'm wondering if there's any video, or if it would be allowed to do a little snip of one of the board meetings where people are making decisions or voting on certain things, or just a little bit. This is what we're here for. We're here to make a decision, and here's how we do it. That's really what we're trying to get across. If it would be legal, I don't know.
That was something that had been brought up. That was one of Susan's great ideas. Was we have a lot of B-roll that NCT has captured on behalf of the
Okay.
that we could use in their election judge video. We could use that and have people talking over it. So that's just a part of that creative process that was on the other side of the tunnel again.
I see this being so much easier, things that are not as politically charged. Water and sewer board. Well, back that up. I was the president of the Seaman Lake elections. Voting for the candidates doesn't feel as politically charged in those areas. We're fire director. I think of all of these elections, and most every election that we've been to, it brings up a lot of feelings. And that was something that we were trying to really help focus this committee on is I want to steer clear of the hot button items. When you're like, are they voting on something? And I was like, why can I picture the Johnson Street shuttle being the thing they're voting on and everybody being up in arms one way or another? And the video not helping support the election voting process as much as holding up political feelings. What does it mean to serve on the Tura Meadows Water and Sewer Board? That's something that you can hear from the horse's mouth a little bit easier. Catching through our former mayor, there's a lot of feelings around that. I mean, that's where in our office, we get a little hesitant about putting the branding, some votes right on that because it can change people's feelings and it can change their perception on whether or not we're. So that was a little bit of a challenge, and I thought the pivot to include enactors was a good pivot. So unfortunately, I can see that, and I can hear what you're talking about it feeling very scripted for those actors, and in particular for those community members.
And I did it, I think I probably, in hindsight, I could have done a better job of communicating, I guess, whatever hesitancy I had with that next time going forward. But yeah, I was just excited to keep going with the project. Let's try that.
Yeah, I love the idea. I thought it was a great pivot. Sounds like it actually added a new layer of complexity to it too.
But we got an hour of Dan Clark on page, so there's definitely something there.
Yeah. And that Dan Clark being like that standard of somebody who served in that role, is familiar, and may not bring up feelings that they recently proposed a project I support or oppose. Unless you really feel strongly about open meeting law.
His goal with this was to encourage people to join boards.
To vote in joint boards, yeah, to build up that kind
To vote and
of more participation in that subcommittee process, committee process, board process.
Would it help to narrow the focus, so it was just encourage people to vote, or just talk about
that's a good question.
the,
I think it would, right now with us still being focused on municipal elections, that's what all of our content is on, is the municipal election and those three goals. And I guess where I struggle with is telling people what to do. I was excited about this project, was connecting the voices of those Seaman to the Missoulas. And there's no message manipulation there, there's no, or even appearance of it, it's just, what is this person saying that's in service? And then what is the citizen thinking about that? Telling people to vote, telling people when to vote goes beyond the scope, I guess, of what I was prepared to do.
It's going to start out because we kind of have a problem getting people to run for some of those elections, so it kind of seems like the first. Yeah, you gotta have something to vote on.
Yeah, the idea between what these roles do, why you should serve, and then really dovetailing that into the mission of the election advisory committee of, if you understand what these people do and why they serve, we can increase the turnout in these elections. And so that's the reason that from our aspect on the elections side, we were really pushing towards, that's one of the pillars of the EAC is to improve turnout in elections. And this is what we hear. Our big thing is, I don't know what this role does. I don't know what it means to be a city councilor versus a mayor versus, I love it, the one that always catches people is municipal judge. I was like, no, they're not reviewing the laws passed by the city. It's not like the Supreme Court. It's far different. It is traffic tickets. It is misdemeanors. And what that role is and the difference to help increase turnout. And that instantly plays over towards boards, councils. Did you know that if you live here, you have this representation, you have this, so maybe we can gain more. And by gaining more knowledge, thus increasing turnout. Trying to kind of split that line between why you should vote. And here's what I do, which is why you should vote. And that jump when you don't have a mayor, when you don't have a Dan Clark to be like, I've done this role.
Yeah.
That was, I love the creativity. I love that jump with, hey, let's come up with some actors. And boy, we have actors, get ready to go. But I can understand losing the authenticity of, here's why I decided to run for mayor.
And you didn't want to get in a situation where you had an existing elected and it looked like this was a campaign.
An existing or recent elected, yeah, just in.
I wonder about, go backwards too far, but what if we interviewed the mayor of Hamilton, city council person from Stevensville? So there's an entry.
We might avoid Steve, they have their own term.
Well, we showed it in Missoula.
Yeah.
So the people in Missoula, I have no idea what the turmoil is. And Steve, I have something like a total local government American. So if I saw a video with someone in Stevensville talking about what it's like to be a city council person, I would just absorb that. Yeah, you voted on the bridge. But if you like Stevensville, we can skip Stevensville. We do Farmington.
No, but just, you know.
We can pick some places where it's far enough away.
What about, reaching out to like the community councils and neighborhood councils and maybe starting even a more like really, really local level, like this is literally your neighbor. And you know, what they do and how they contribute to city council. And then I love your idea of finding a former council member, even recent former, Sierra Farmer is not running for re-election this year, but she is a recent council member or current council member. And so she, you know, can talk about what it is today and you know, kind of tie the smaller boards together and how each level builds on itself. I don't know it, but I do think finding former or more distant.
You were thinking recent would still be hot button for people.
This is where I really defer and lean on Allison and her team, but we operate, in general, our office operates out of an abundance of caution. This is where they are perfect. so engaged, so knowledgeable, and he's served as a mayor in small town Montana. So he gets that direct firsthand knowledge, and he's also obscure enough that when you hear it, you know that there's a passion, you know that there's good information, and you're not like, you're the guy who is proposing the bridge thing.
Yeah, whatever.
You know, whatever it may be. Yeah, and so like, that's exactly it. And there was a very strong push with our office, with the communications. We were able to connect communications to really be cautious on who we would utilize. And this is where civic educators, teachers, Dan Clark, and then, boy, when we're having a hard time finding somebody for city council, that was that pivot, and I can't remember which one of you had come up with the idea of the actors, because MCT actors wanted to do this, and then there's this aspect where scripting becomes challenging. What should you say?
Well, what about using Dan Clark? He was so much better this year than he was the time that I went to his presentation the last time. A lot better.
We've got it, we can.
I thought the footage that we got of him this time was not as, animated, as, you'd have to watch it, I guess, but,
I thought so.
with his little spiel. Oh, did you watch the?
I went.
No, that's what I'm saying. The footage that we have.
Oh, I haven't seen the footage.
Right, it's not as engaging as his live performance.
What about using his live performance? What about
It's not on video.
starting over?
Well,
from
I'm sure
scratch?
he recorded it, right? Well, we did get his what was her title? Maybe I have.
So
Ashley was two person.
Skylar?
maybe somebody new in the office and so on.
Yeah.
Skylar's number 3, she's new.
Ashley's great.
Yep.
Well, Ashley's just another presenter like he is. This is someone who is like communications and outreach and stuff like that. So I would think that, whereas Ashley is also one of the people being recorded, this was someone that he referred to us as someone to talk to about
Working together.
distribution and things like that. Yeah.
And the goal with this was everything we do in Missoula tends to be kind of innovative and useful. If you have the same structure that Missoula City has, can we share this video and it matches? It's not going to work in Butte, but it may match for whatever small community you live in Glendive where you're running an election for the mayor. And what the mayor doesn't normally change in those different capacities.
About city employees, like going to city governments and asking their take on what happens in the mayor's office
That's a good idea.
and
It's like
council.
Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer of the city, to provide that fantastic description of this is what a mayor does. Totally void of any political bent. Dale would be the authority on the scope of a mayor's responsibilities.
And then this
And
is what a
that's
city
from-
council
from
does.
the county could say, this is what a county commissioner does.
Yeah, and
Dale could also say, this is what the city council person does.
yeah, so then we have the what. I think the why may be a little easier to find, or why to vote or why to run. But I think the what is the stickiest part, and that's where, dependent on your political leaning, the person matters a lot when you're hearing the what.
We were really struggling with the why, in writing the script, you're talking, do you want good roads, strong schools and so, and like every single thing we were saying is a politicized issue.
So we just say, leave it clear that it asked questions and then answer them. The questions would be, what does a city council person do? What does the mayor do? And so when you're going to vote, it's like, I don't know what the person, I know what the job is. And my role is to pick the person for the job. Well, I went to this debate, or I read this op-ed, now I know who. We don't do any why, we just do that. This is what the job is. That's it.
I think that, yeah, getting the what down may help drive turnout. Another untapped resource possibly would be to talk to our immigrant community, especially if they come from places where voting isn't a common right, where it does feel like a privilege to them if we're trying to explain the why. That community can explain the why that our society takes for granted in a way that will never.
It would be kind of cool just to ask 10 people and includes folks from our image, sure, include people that from all walks of life that we could find and just ask them the question, why is it important to vote? Whatever they say is what they say.
And then on the street,
Yeah,
Type.
person on the street.
yeah, sorry, personal, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps at all, but
And
that's,
if somebody's like, because my political party, but we don't do that.
right, we can edit and
Yeah.
throw that one.
What you're talking about was what I kind of thought we started out with. And that when I talked with Dylan Huskin, who teaches civics and social studies in Bonner, that's more what we got from him. With lead-ins of only 32% of people vote in local elections. He talked about some of what each position does, but also why you want to vote, so that you don't let a small number of people determine what the outcome is and things like that. But yeah, I tried to get high school ones, but he was pretty good. He was the teacher of the year in 2019. So he's highly regarded. But yeah, I think we have a bunch of footage like that. Even just him, I think we could cut down to a short video. But I think there's a bunch of different. You probably already covered this, but I think there's a bunch of different short videos that could come out of what we have, depending on what we decide we want to have. But also, as far as the immigrant community goes, I interact with a lot of the students. Well, for one, a lot of the parents don't speak English very well. So that might be hard. But I'm not. It would just be interesting. I would, you have to, I don't know, do you interact with them much in your role?
Some, but I also this summer had the opportunity to hear one of our Missoula immigrants talk about his story of, refugee camps to the United States, and that the last election was the first election that he voted in, and the amount of pride he takes in that. And I had my 17-year-old with me, and she was very excited to come in here on her 18th birthday to register for to vote. So yeah, like she wants him to come to her government class this year and explain to her peers what a privilege it is to do what we do.
Well, we should get him.
And so I know he was very inspiring to a teenager. So hopefully that would then, translate to adults in our community. And that's, I admittedly don't have a ton of interaction, but that one specifically was very powerful for us. Yeah.
Okay, so the decision now is got this footage, Dan card and some actors. We want to try and make something out of that. Add to all this or subtract. We might burst into us. We'll get a committee of people together and figure it out if something that would fail.
It would be great to have some help. I had a lot of availability this summer, but law school back in full swing right now, and so I'm a little less competent right now. But
I wouldn't call it fail though. It's just not done yet.
we're getting ready. We learned how to apply for the MCT grants. We learned how to get actors out there. We put a lot of pieces together, and we got a lot of content. We just haven't developed something with it yet. Have you watched through it, Susan? Like, do you think that there's enough out there to get some of those short Dan Clark? I mean, he did seem a little uncomfortable being told what to say, prompted with questions and stuff. And so
it was weird.
He's like, "What do you want
Like
to say?"
to get him to answer the questions rather than him scripting himself. That, which is what I mean by he's less engaging, but, and I don't want to badmouth him, he knows everything, but, it was just a different format for him that I think he wasn't really that used to. But yes, I definitely think there's a number of, 30-second things or longer, but on different topics, you could edit it a lot of different ways. Was it like 10 or 12 hours of stuff? I mean, most of it is actors, but there's an hour of Dylan and an hour of Dan, so there's quite a bit.
I guess the first question on my mind is, do we want to rush and try to get something out still before the municipal elections?
I'm not sure how it would even be edited and distributed in an effective period of time. In talking with high school teachers, though, that's the kind of thing that they could show any time of year, and as part of their government classes, because they're talking about that all the time in the government classes anyway. So I wouldn't call it a loss. I'm a growth mindset kind of person.
I haven't made any graphics, but he can do, MCT can do cut-ins for like introductions and banners. And we had discussed using some of the B-roll and stuff that we have on camera from election judge videos and some of the stuff that I think the open source, open meetings and stuff that we've had. But as far as graphics, we haven't involved anything specific for this.
I'm gonna jump in here. I think that with ballots mailing next week, I don't think it's gonna make the most sense to rush and get this done. What I keep coming back to is how, when I'm hearing from you guys, how it feels when you're watching some of the people speak, and that authenticity is gonna show through. And when Commissioner Slotnick mentions Dale Bicknell, that wasn't on my radar. And this is a gentleman who runs one of the, I was thinking of Claire, who is a clerk. I was thinking of city council people. Dale is that category who is professional, knowledgeable, doesn't need to be scripted, speaks authentically on this, and hits a lot of the things that we were going for with Dan, but it seems like we didn't quite hit that mark on. Now, my take is there is no rush. We get to do municipal elections twice a year, every other year, and I would rather take our time and catch something that's gonna put forward the best foot forward that we're looking for. And that may be holding and working on one or two municipals and then saying, we got one for the municipal for the 2027 cycle. We'll catch the other ones with Dale. Do we pivot to next year in our lower turnout elections and see where those might get? What does it mean to be a school board trustee? And you get Mike Hill, superintendent, to come forward and be like, here's what it's like to be a school board trustee. And in that circumstance, we're catching the same areas, because I'm trying to dovetail this to our goal as the election advisory committee to increase turnout. And I feel like the best way to do that is to help people understand what these roles are, And I think that as we're looking at that, it doesn't make sense to push it out to get a 30-second video for the upcoming municipal election when we can pause, revisit. I think it might be a good idea to reach out to Dale and discuss that and get that footage. This being said, that we met a month and a half ago to talk about how great shooting was, and we're going back in time. And I think that's fine to correct the hiccups that we had, to put our best foot forward. And if we went through and made one that talked about, here's what this is, here's where this goes, this is that proof of concept, we can do that. And then we start looking at what do we catch for next year? Because in May, we will have a school and special district election, and we can take what we've learned, build upon that. And I want it for this election. I just want them to be the quality that we all can really be excited about and stand behind. And if we take what we learned, like you're saying, make it a little better, we pivot those in and we still have information for that next cycle. That's my way to take on it. I hate telling you guys, maybe we should look and record more with Dale after you've finished recording and done a lot of work. And then maybe we should look at what we could do on the school and special districts, because that's going to be our next cycle. And guess what? maybe a special district who says, it's not just about serving on the fire district, it's also that we may want to run a levy. And here's how that levy happens, and it's done by your board. I think that there's a lot, and when we talk about that connection, that thing that what I'm hearing from you two, you want to hear from people doing it, you want to feel that authenticity. To echo off of what I heard others say, maybe we're too high at some of those levels and we need to be at a lower level. Like, what is it in your local water sewer board? What is it in your local issue? That's my take. No need to run them through. The ideal time to get them out is next Thursday. I wouldn't ask you guys to ramrod that project through to get one done just for the sake of having it out next Thursday.
I mean, people are much too sophisticated in their viewing of things. We
That's
see
really true.
way too much stuff in something that's amateurish at best
Next.
is not good. I'm a big fan of testimonials. Speaking personal, I can tell you why I've been an election judge for years. I sat next to a woman at election judge training. A young one. She said, she's from originally from Georgia or somewhere. She said, my parents were friends with people who couldn't vote. And that's why I do this. Because I am committed that there aren't going to be people like my mother's friends.
We may do a video for election judge recruitment too, Kathy. Right?
I do think that rushing the process, especially in the TikTok age where everybody is used to making these 15-second very polished videos.
Yeah.
If we put out something subpar to that, it's not going to be taken seriously and it's not going to convey the messages that we need to convey.
And people will ignore it. So,
But thank you for your hard work.
I think we've learned a ton.
Oh,
I really appreciate it.
I feel like this project's over.
I don't think it's by any means.
Some
It's,
learning.
it just needs some refinement.
Like, kind of back to your point, Brad, like after we, like when we met and had lunch, like we did have a really good day of shooting. It was so fun to do that. We were all caught up and we were like, this is gonna be great. And then we go back and watch the footage and then it's just a bunch of this. It's like actors, we got a teleprompter, they're gonna remember scripts. It was just, yeah.
It should be a documentary. Fiction.
Yeah.
And speaking of candidates, we'll see you all soon. I have a forum starting in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe contribute a little bit.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys' work on this. This is not an easy path to go through. And I think I'm going to echo what I'm hearing you guys say. It's not done. It's not over. I think there's a lot learned. I think that we can definitely pivot. I think that the authenticity part is the part that we were trying to accomplish in a unique way. And I also kind of feel like we kind of shot us in the foot a little bit. An actor reading information from another person is not the same as somebody who is knowledgeable and understanding and doesn't keep that scripting. And so I think that there are some great opportunities. And I do think that as we hit any of the groups we might look at recording videos for going forward, there's so much less caution on our behalf. It's still there. If you've lived in Sealy, you understand what a sewer district is an important thing, and being a water and sewer director is important. But it's also not quite that same level of concern from us in that capacity of your fire district director tends to be pretty relatively unknown. And yes, it is important. Yes, they can be close elections. They can be contentious elections, but why they do what they do will be pretty darn authentic. And then I don't have as much concern as I do about these great messengers. Sierra Farmer, Jordan Hess, these would be great messengers. And I feel like they're too close. Dale Bicknell is a great messenger who's maybe not as close.
Jordan could talk about being a city council person. That was all.
I have to set out the ones that I'm so sorry, guys. I'll be right back.
Are we ready to move on to new business? Hey. Is it ready? Well, as soon as Bradley comes back, we'll move on to item 6.
So when the ballots go on?
Thursday.
Thursday. So they should have one Friday or Saturday.
Anybody want or did it?
Would you? I'm sorry. Sorry, it's a big day in our household at home and some good successes. Jumping over to the election administrator update. Can I have a couple of the handouts down here to walk you guys through? I gave all mine to Rebecca when she came in here. We're going to start with a quick update of the last election that we just went through. We had our first of a couple of law changes we're going to touch base on in the last election, and it was removing that official ballot stamp from the top of those ballots. They used to all individually be stamped with official ballot before going out. There was a recent law change that required it to be printed on there, and here was our benefit. We were able to prepare ballots at a 20% increase. Increasing the speed of preparing those ballots by not going through and individually stamping each ballot. 20% per team. We also were saving a lot of money on our prep process. It was a fantastic update. There were some changes that were discussed at the legislature before putting that forward. And the changes are, when that was first written into law, county for hand count. So ballots could be anything. You needed it stamped because it might be printer paper from the county and they would be hand counted. Now that they're machine tabulated, they are specific. The coding is critical. The ballot layout and formatting is critical. And as they go out, we're also have a statewide voter database where we're confirming every signature, every ballot received. So with each of the different safeguards we have, the legislature chose to eliminate the official ballot stamp, and it really helped out the process in preparing ballots to go out. Now I want to jump right to the next law change that's closely associated. And this is the handout that we have here in front of you. It's going to be the requirement of House Bill 719 to place the year of birth on the affirmation envelope. This is a big thing. We're going to start advertising this really hard starting on the 16th. That's when our ballots mail. We want it to be really timely for voters to know that, hey, we're going to use 2 days after the 16th as I just went through. Yep. We're going to be working to make sure that we're getting them this information when they get those ballots. So it's a statewide law change. Every county is affected similarly. We use the Secretary of State's guidance. It does not match the law exactly, but it does match almost verbatim our recommended amendment to the law. So we decided to follow their guidance. The law requires the date of birth. April 11th, 1984 to be written on your signature, right underneath your signature line on your envelope. The Secretary of State's office decided that there was an amendment placed on the bill and said we're only going to require people to use the year of birth. And Missoula County's guidance that we gave to everybody was a friendly amendment could be using the year of birth instead of the full date of birth, because that's a lot of personally identifiable information on the outside of an envelope. So we're going to use their guidance. It's year of birth. We're following where they're going, and we're going to be working hard to make sure that voters understand this process. In addition to that, we've eliminated the flap that covers the signature. This was part of our planned process. It unified us with every other county in the state of Montana. It saved us on the cost of producing the envelopes, and it sped up our ballot preparation times as well. So we were able to gain about an extra 100 per team per day. Sorry, didn't speak. And so as we went through, we prepared some handouts. What we've seen is we've had some other counties go through and do a pilot process. So Lewis and Clark ran this primary. They put it on there and they gave a caveat that said, If you don't list your year of birth, your ballot will not be rejected, just to see what the response was. And the response was overwhelmingly supportive, with the exception of people who really wanted to tell people their feelings on why they shouldn't be doing it. And that's why we created this handout that walks through how the law came into place, the bill's sponsor, the bill's only proponent, and then the comments that we provided from Missoula County at the time this bill was being heard. In general, we're expecting to just go through. We're expecting to go through, we're expecting to work closely with the public and help them understand this process. We do expect a few phone calls, a few emails, and we've been working with our team to help inform it. Right now, we're jumping down, we've hit the administrator update, and we're just running through a couple of law bits. Oh, you're fine. We're excited to prepare forward. We have prepared each of the ballots. They are at our vendor. They are ready to go out, and they will be mailed on Thursday.
I just had a fun little tidbit where she weighed the materials that we're sending out, and we prepared 3 tons of material for them. 3 tons of ballots. Just under 80,000. What exactly is the purpose of putting your paper? Good question.
There's a reason we listed the proponents and the sponsors to not misspeak on their behalf. I went back and watched some of the testimony. And it was stated that it was important to ensure that if there are 2 people with the same name, the same household, that we're checking the correct signature. The Secretary of State's voter database is actually pretty intelligent, and when you scan the barcode, it pulls up that voter's signature. There's also an aspect where you can click a button that says also in household. So if there were 2 John Smiths, you'd be able to see those signatures. That's the best explanation that I have as to why this was brought over. But you can reach out directly to Mr. Mitchell or to Mr. James, who are listed here as the proponent and the sponsor, to help understand a little bit more of their. Questions about that process? Okay. Obviously, it's not that exciting of a topic here as we go through. I'm just teasing. So we have 2 other laws that I wanted to touch base on. We have 2 laws that are really playing into effect for the next year, and they are voter ID at the polls, as well as election day voter registration. Right now, this law is currently under legal review. Election day registration ending at noon is currently under legal review, and voter IDs are currently under legal review. As we go through this process, we're working hard to help update our election judge training for next year to reflect that. And what we've been able to do in the past, this isn't the first time we've been into training with laws under legal review. We create 2 methods of training. We'll train on the current method, and we will have a backup method of training for should the law change. So we're currently training on the laws as they exist, knowing that they may be overturned through the court process. And that's going to mirror the process that we went through in 24 and in 2022. As we go forward with this, we're going to be shuffling our election judge training a little bit for next year to accommodate legal review and training from the Secretary of State. Normally, our training begins in February, and we're going to begin it in March. As we have grown, added Sarah Bell to our team and filled every other role, we now have a little more capacity to have this closer to the upcoming school and special district election. But what we're able to do is we can wait on recruitment until the holidays. In the past, we reach out to people in December and then follow up again in January, and there's this 2-week gap because people are traveling. We may be traveling. And so we'll start recruitment in January and training in March, which will hopefully give the courts a little more time to make a decision. None of the current law cases have had a decision. We checked with our county attorney, and all of them have just had initial arguments, but no oral arguments with decisions since the 8th of October. So we're tracking them, we're watching them. There's just not a lot of news right now. As that goes forward, I'm kind of excited for that next year because it's going to change the way that we plan. And so we'll be able to come up with 2 different plans based off of what that might look like. Will we be running voter registration from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m.? Or will it run from 8 AM until noon? What will those options be? And so we'll be working closely on updating information, updating election judge training to accommodate that, and creating agency plan. Questions about those quick law updates or the outreach around House Bill 719, which is the date of birth?
Do you anticipate that this date of birth thing is gonna slow down the signature verification at all?
Yes, I do. Now, how much? That information all appears on the same page. But now instead of checking one piece of information, you have to check two pieces of information. We're going to be watching and closely tracking to see what impacts that has. But with both pieces of information being visible on the same section of the web page, it is check, check compared to check. So there will be a delay. But as we go through this process, we've just received all of the guidance from the Secretary of State's office today on how to process it. We're working on updating our information, and anytime there's a process change, it changes how we operate. So I do expect there to be a little bit longer, and you'll notice that we're doing a little bit more to encourage people to get their ballots in ahead of election day to help make sure that if there is an issue, we're not reaching out to say, sorry, Miss Flood, you forgot to put your year of birth, or you put 2025 instead of your year of birth on your envelope. It can't be accepted until you correct it. P.S. I know it's 3 AM on election day. Please come by tomorrow. And so that's really what we've been watching with the pilot program from Lewis and Clark. I haven't seen very much. Most of what we saw are people were really upset about it and needed a spot to focus that. And that's not our team. We'll always follow the law as it's written. And kind of to echo Travis's question, here's the information we do have, but best to get it right from the source. Okay. I'm going to dive into a fun update that I didn't get time to put onto the agenda, and it is a little bit of a reference around polling locations. I know in the last meeting we discussed the fact that we will have 2 polling locations that we were asked to relocate, and we've come up with a pretty good plan. I was actually working, Rebecca has one of the positions at the school district in School District 1 that works on coordinating all of our voting locations in School District 1. And so before she left, she was like, yep, get in touch with the Lifelong Learning Center. So we've got 2 different options. Let's start with Lowell School, a very easy one. For Lowell School, we have about 600 voters that vote at Lowell School, and we've been able to coordinate with First Step, which is also the Burn Street Community Center, First Step Land Trust. So, First Step, thank you. I wrote that wrong in the notes here. First Step is a different sort of support community, and Front Step manages the Burn Street Community Center. Burn Street Community Center was our update for Lowell School in 2018 when it was undergoing construction, when we served more polling place voters. We're looking at an estimated high number of 600 polling place voters going to the Burn Street Community Center, the old Burn Street Bistro. And we are at the point now where we're just going to sign some contracts very specifically, I am seeking advice from you on EDAC who will present this to the Board of County Commissioners. At that point in time, we would be prepared to go forward with relocating those voters from Lowell School to the Burn Street. And what I'm working to do is help share this information with you before we reach out to talk with our commission. The big aspect of this is if we're changing the precinct names, we may need to seek permission out. So the location will work. It's got great access. It meets their mission and our mission incredibly well. And so right now we're just looking at finalizing those steps and presenting this to everybody just to revisit and make sure that there's nothing that we're missing. Questions about the location or the plan for Lowell?
Did I miss the part where you say whether we have to pay for it or not? Is it free?
No payment. Yeah. With this, whenever there is a payment, we normally negotiate that to a cleaning fee so that we're not paying for a rental because it's a community-based service. The only place we've really had to do that is the university. And we leverage the aspect that unless it's an emergency situation, the law is that you don't pay for a polling location. However, if they need to clean the building after us, please, let's all work together. Good question, thank you.
I'm sure you look at the parking. Exactly.
The parking is street parking. And we ran this in the past when they had opened the co-op and had Burn Street open and had the Burn Street community parking there. Now the co-op won't be open, so there'll be additional parking there. And on average, we're expecting to see 10 voters in the building at one point in time. So we don't hit this big aspect, 600 throughout a 14-hour day. So there'll be some ebbs and flows, but it's not a huge stress. And at Lowell, it's all on street parking too. Great question.
This involves two schools. Is the district not looking at his office now, or is there a specific reason? I need to know the reason these schools are no longer going to be available.
Yeah, that's great. So this kind of echoes over from some of our previous conversations. School District 1 is providing alternative locations to the elementary schools that we were using for them. It's strictly around safety and security concerns of students versus election need of open access. Lowell School is a great example. We were out of there in 2018 because they received funding to add secure doorways to their building. And on election day, we say, we need your gym door to be open 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. And they said, well, that's the opposite of the security we've been working hard with. Now, with that, they have offered Cold Springs, which is serving most of the South Hills. They have offered the MCPS admin building, which took over for St. Joe's, Russell, and Paxton Elementary a little bit. And they also offer the Lifelong Learning Center. And that's a great area to kind of pivot towards the CS Porter update and discussion, because CS Porter went through a couple of different changes. I'm sorry, before I pivot. Did I do a pretty good job of answering your question? Great. And did anybody else have any concerns on mobile? I didn't want to just jump right past that.
Can I ask a question about your table?
Yeah.
So when we're looking at total voters and polling place voters, is that a difference between in-person voters and mail-in voters?
Exactly. Your total voters is going to be everybody. Your polling place voters are the number that are available. And then the yellow column is the people who actually went to vote, because many of those people who are considered polling place voters are actually inactive. And they're not even here, they're just on that list. That's the number one majority of the people we're staffing for, but we want to make sure there's space and availability. But that's why you see 600 voters, and if you look, Lowell 100B is 611 people just in that precinct. Well, the polling place area number, it's usually a little bit south of 1%. Mirroring on that, CS Porter Middle School was the other School District 1 location. So in 2024, we actually worked really closely with School District 1 and those principals to keep that location when we had moved out of each of the other locations that they had had. The principals at the time were very supportive, and the administration said, we'd like you out of any of these buildings that have students going. So that's the reason for this look. CS Porter became slightly more challenging. CS Porter is, I've got a great map that helps show this, and it's kind of hard to see, but running down there is Reserve Street. Kind of that cut between right to the left of CS Porter 97A. As you're looking at this, we had essentially 3 different precincts that voted at CS Porter, and we explored a couple of different locations in the community. And what we ran into was the location would not be available, or the coordination would be challenging, or we were asking another school to do the same thing that another school had asked us not to do. So as we looked at that, we decided that the best bet for CS Porter requires a little bit of creative thinking. And CS Porter 96, the one that's, if you look at that map, it's on the south, we're looking at having them go to the admin building. So this is going to be the MCPS admin building located there. The reason being, there are 7 precincts at the admin building. So we reached out to the polling place manager and we said, could you handle 8? And they said, of course we can. There is space, there is parking, there is plenty of room there to handle this, and that was the smallest number of voters. I think we looked at moving 92 votes over for that. Now, the ones we're in coordination with right now is we're looking at CS Porter 97A. That's going to be the one on the northeast on your map. Looking at having them go to the lifelong learning center, and a lot of that is based off of the number of voters that were on which side of Reserve Street and the closest locations that had parking and could accommodate. Before we're able to move forward with this, we've been working with School District 1. School District 1 owns the building that the Lifelong Learning Center is in, and we coordinate with the Lifelong Learning Center on the usage of the space. The room that we were currently in is not big enough. And so we're hoping that we can reach out to them now and they can plan ahead for June and November, and we can utilize their gym. And if we're in their gym for that location, it will better serve the voters that are currently there. And we would be able to add the extra 200 voters for CS Porter 97A. That was Rebecca's update. Call Jody, get in touch with her. It's going to be her decision. I can absolutely respect that. Let's see what we can get together and planning this far ahead. Hopefully we can coordinate for those 2 days next year. We're also looking at CS Porter 97B. Going to the Target Range Elementary School. So on the back again, you'll see that's going to be the one furthest to the west, and trying to keep things in the community in that neighborhood. We're looking at having them go to the Target Range. With Target Range, we have located in 3 different locations: their hallway, their library, and their gym. In talking with the polling place manager, we would like to add the gym as the location to accommodate the extra voters throughout the day and just make sure there's space for everybody. Travis, thank you, sorry.
So is it just Missoula County Public Schools that are allowed?
So yes, it's Missoula County Public Schools, School District 1, and there's a big reason for this. School District 1, between all of the different schools that they have, Hellgate, Big Sky, Willard, all of these share student resource officers. Many of our other locations that are in schools have their own student resource officer. And so when we're reaching out to Bonner School to say, can we use this as a polling location? They have their own student resource officer on site and are comfortable with that. In the 2022 cycle, we went through and tried to recruit enough police or sheriff's deputies to be at the locations, and there were not enough reserve deputies to staff the locations. So that's kind of what started this discussion. We were able to coordinate and use the 5 different SROs for School District 1, a few sheriff's deputies, and add in additional security. Now it's important to note that the Uvalde school shooting happened about 4 days before our primary election. So I have a longer access to the school so I can understand and respect schools' concerns. A lot of partner with schools, we want to use government buildings that taxpayers are already paying for those locations. We want to meet that security versus access concern. So that's one of the big reasons that the School District 1, but when we reach out to Hellgate or Target Range, they say, yes, please come here. And each school has their own unique capacity to help support this process. So we're working pretty closely.
Have you ever looked at the Orchard Homes building there?
We did. We used the Orchard Homes building on 3rd, and the issues that we had with the Orchard, 2018, we used that as our polling location. The issues that we had with that location were ADA access to the building. It doesn't have an ADA accessible door. It didn't at the time have a paved lot, but they've been able to pave that lot. And what we're able to do in this process for our staffing coordination by using the 3 different locations will actually be a little bit better for our polling place managers rather than adding back in that location and placing it there. Because what we're able to do is share them to these other more centralized locations. It's really trying to balance staffing, cost savings, keeping it in the community and meeting security concerns. We did go back to the Orchard Homes Community Center, and I'm trying to look at the map and remember if it was, I think it was the location. Just that you can see the Orchard Homes Road. It's going to be located near that little spur from Hellgate 97. And it was a little bit easier to say, well, some of these voters can go to the one in there, keep these voters on the other side of the reserves. Well, we didn't really explore that other location. This is exactly where we're bringing it up to you guys. If you feel that it would be better to reach out to Orchard Homes, you're getting our first look at this. I was actually really excited we had it this far along for this meeting. Yeah, try to, but also, I mean, that's exactly it. No, never thought of it, never heard it, let's check it out. DNRC loved it, got all set up, and they were like, nope, doesn't quite work for us. Reached out to the Forest Service and they said, maybe skip the Forest Service, they're going through some of their own unique things this year. And so really just trying to find something else space. That's it, and say, hey, where does it work? What will work? And I like this idea because it's coordinating, it's leaning on our strengths, it's leaning on really great managers, it's keeping it in the community. No ideas are perfect. The next steps we would do is we would reach out to the commission. Well, if there's no concerns from the advisory committee here, this is exactly what we're trying to do, is utilize you guys to present a plan, a big scale plan for 26 to 28. Say, hey, do you guys have any concerns? The next steps to go through are, we're pretty good on Bird Street. Oh, I didn't have much of a concern with 0.7 mile. This next one is, unless there were concerns that you guys had, we would start reaching out to the other districts. So next on my list is, do I call the Lifelong Learning Center and say, can we coordinate and use your gym? Do I call the Target Range and say, can we coordinate and use your gym? And then from there, we would proceed forward, we would present this to the commission, and then we would do the same outreach we did around redistricting. You are a polling place voter, and you are now going to be voting at Target Range. Here's a map to get there. Also, if you would like to sign up for absentee, here's an absentee ballot request. Finishing the 2024 election after redistricting, we didn't receive a lot of calls that were like, I don't know where to go. And that was a big thing.
I went to the wrong place during that election. I used to think about elementary, I went there and turned out I had to go to CS border. So, yeah.
Did you call us?
No, I just, no.
I talked to the people. Because we were able to, we put on QR codes, we tried to do as much as we could to help people know, because there was no one size fits all. That's the same thing we'll run into here. Should we proceed forward with this plan, I can sign CS Border and say, this location has been relocated. But what I can't do is sign it and say, you're gonna go to Target Range School. I can sign Lowell School and say, go to Bird Street Eastern, because everybody goes there. But when we're splitting those precincts, like we did in redistricting, everybody goes somewhere different. And also, yes, we're gonna have those hiccups. Yes, we're gonna work to catch that, and usually it's the person. Hopefully it's the other person.
I just knew it is also that picture.
Questions or concerns about these proposed ideas?
You know that when you change a workplace location like that, do you tend to notice a preceding election, do you tend to notice a slight dip in turnout until people kind of get, they might miss one, they might pull a David.
We change it every year.
Yeah.
We have been pretty constant on moving around locations between construction, between redistricting, between something else coming up. What we have seen that I can track and say is that when we send those mailers, we're gonna get I don't have a great number. And I wonder if you guys do, let's say like 10-20% that are like, what do you mean I'm a polling place voter?
Sure.
If we're like, you got the form, it's right here, all you gotta do is fill that out, because yes, I want you to know where to go on election day, it's got a map, it's great, it says here's where you go. Or, did you mean to get your ballot in the mail? P.S. You can.
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial to include that form, because then it gives them the option to sign up for absentee right from that notice of relocation. I would like to know the number on that.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see that, because I feel like what happens more is people sign up for absentee rather than voting. And it's pretty anecdotal, Jack. I don't have to.
Yeah, no, well, I think this looks great.
That would be kind of interesting also to know how many people get told they can't vote here. They have to go to there and never.
And never
go
make
there.
Yeah.
Especially if they wait until 7 and then. Yeah, but if you.
I did do the mileage, and I will do the mileage on CS Border. Remember, we polled our voters. 10 miles, the difference, or the distance they're willing to travel, and I was like, that's cute, you're not. It's 5 miles across Missoula to the other side of town, and nobody wants to do that, me included. That's one of the hard parts about like reaching out and just blanket asking people for data. nobody wants to travel 5 to 10 miles. And we really worked hard to keep when we redistricted within 3 miles.
I think you've done a really good job.
The nice thing is we just got to do it with redistricting, so I had a really good framework to work off of. So, okay, I'm gonna take this and say, obviously we'll reach out, we'll share this information, we'll give a couple other people, but I'm gonna start proceeding forward with reaching out to a couple of the other schools. And working forward on finalizing this and getting this presented so that we can start our outreach. Ideally, we would get our outreach done at the beginning of the year. We don't want to do it too soon, we don't want to do it too late, but we will have a multitude of different things we're reaching out around, so we want to find the best time. The why.
Like the YMCA.
With the difference between MCPS admin and the YMCA, we moved the people from Russell School to the admin building. And so I think it was keep them in that same location.
Why it's right next to those.
Yes, and so all of those people have moved to the admin building.
You don't want to.
And I don't want to move all of those other people to accommodate those 92. It's kind of weird. But yes, I can see that because I'm like, boy, we never looked at the why. We were looking at schools and government buildings, yeah. And so, fill it up soon.
If you're coming, easy to get to that. Go on the side street, you got to turn against traffic.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good.
Did DMRC say why?
Yes, forgive me because I loved it. When they told me no, I was like, thank you, moving on. I think it was space. What was it space? Was it the aspect?
Yeah, there's some attitudes too, but but yeah, I think it was a concern about, we use there's one conference space, and I think probably the relative capacity to how frequently you use that for meetings. It's used almost every day. So yeah, I think there's some consternation about reserving it for a day.
Yeah.
Night prior, that's.
We do really good at trying to coordinate and partner with people. I mean, I think about it, and it's a big ask. I really like utilizing that ask to schools, specifically personally, because they are government funded.
Well, so is the DRC.
They're set up, and for my viewpoint, for me, I don't have students, I don't have kids, I don't have students, I never see the inside of the school. The only time I get to see the inside of the school is if I go there to vote, or maybe watch a play. But, like that being a part of that aspect towards connecting schools into that community. For me, I always really highlighted that because we've already paid for them. Numbers, same across the board. But that brings up a unique aspect with places we haven't really explored a lot of, like the YMCA. Because we always just looked at publicly funded. The law has changed and does allow you to pay. We still really leverage trying not to pay or paying just for a cleaning fee if we need to pay. But other places need to rent multiple voting locations, and we're thankful not to be there. Questions about this? That's it for my update, guys. There was a lot in here, actually. I really appreciate some time. I appreciate some great discussion. I'm not meaning to shoot anything down. I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
this is
no, I
great.
just right this second.
Great. I was like, yeah, I didn't feel like it was taken that way, but I'm like, no, it's just, these were kind of what our plans were, and that's exactly it. Hey, what else could we look at? Parking around Bird Street is a great thing. That's something I think that it worked on in 2018. Should work better with the whole co-op side being closed down, and just office space in there. And then for the CS border, it was pivot. And there was a point where we looked at Valley Christian. And then I was like, are we really just setting ourselves up to be relocated from another school in 2 years because of safety and security concerns? Can we accommodate this and figure out something that works pretty well? We didn't look back at Orchard Homes, but I think sharing that load amongst the different locations lets us utilize some of these really, really strong managers we currently have established. Or decreases the number of. Get fewer supplies to be delivered, fewer people, and like on our side, that's the balance. How efficient can we be? How accessible can we be? All right, that's my chunk. I'll shut up
You
and pass it
also
back.
have the student member position,
Oh, sorry,
primary on the website.
I gave them over there. So, the student member position has been open, and that is available for posting. We've reached out very specifically. We encourage people to be able to come here and to be able to come and attend this meeting to see what that is. As we've had a couple of different people and students, I went and gave some presentations, recruited a couple of people we were hoping might be here today, and we haven't yet had anybody apply for that position. So should you know anybody at the University of Montana, as long as they are applying while they are in school, they will be able to fill out the remainder of the term that was vacated by me. The primary was just a quick update, mostly about how well the non-standing ballots worked for us. We closed that out. We got over 14% of our ballots on election day. And this really tracks towards the hard work that Sarah and Mark and all of those teams are doing in setting up drop-off locations and making it pretty accessible. Also, the more accessible you make it, the more work there is for you to do. So it's a great challenge to have, and we really coordinated that well. The EAC page on the website. How many of you have been to MissoulaVotes.com recently?
Student member position, it will stay open until filled.
Yeah, website update. And with this website update, we made some pretty substantial changes. We just recently were trained and now have the access to edit the information on here, which is critical towards elections. On election night, on the primary, we couldn't post the results and had to reach out to somebody else to be like, you know what? Be helpful to be able to edit. In here, one of the big things was that we have a page dedicated to the election advisory committee. And now it links directly to the onboard page. So when we're going through and we're taking a roll call, we do this from onboard. We have the bylaws posted in onboard, contact information. You can locate each of the different handouts. The minutes should take you over towards all of our different signed minute documents that then include over a link so you can see the YouTube link. But instead of having a dedicated web page, it was pulled from there, included into what we had on board. Now, the reason this was added is, I know when I was looking for the meeting link, I went to the EAC page every single time. And so now it's just slightly in a different area. The link's going to be right here. All of the information is here, and it's one fewer item to have updated. And so as we go through with this process, we're not needing to link handouts, agendas, each and both our website and onboard. So onboard is kind of taken over for that capacity. And it's really just a pretty minor update, but I always was like, you can find information at the election advisory committee portion of our webpage. And that portion was completely gone. And then we were like, can we get it back even if it just links to onboard? Was it all completely gone or did it just link to onboard? I think it was gone.
It keeps scrolling down.
Oh, yeah, sorry, guys.
The link that's on the agenda, flow.co/EAC, goes straight to this onboard page. There.
If you know somebody at the university who may be interested, they can click there and then apply for this board. You're all familiar with this. You click through here, it'll take you to that online application. Right now, the only seat we have open is for that student rep through until the end of August in 27.
So I'm just noticing that we've got a few people that their terms expire before the next meeting.
Or right,
What is it? Yeah, right.
the next meeting.
Yep, I'm thinking it should be coming up directly afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, January, so it should be directly afterwards. So we'll have our January meeting and dovetailing that, that's where we'll be looking at you guys a lot about election judge recruitment. When we hit a federal general year, I lean heavily on the election advisory committee to help us share information and recruit election judges. We may be shooting a video. We have a couple of great videos that are out there that have already been edited and recorded. And so I'm like, I'm not jumping into a video copy between now and January.
That's a pretty good story that we had. That gets people out there.
Yeah, I think they're great. Yeah. So this website is kind of taken over for that next capacity. Now, as we go through, that next meeting should be January. Terms close to the end of January, and then those who are seeking reappointment and have not had 2 consecutive terms can then send in a letter, and we will forward that to the board and county commissioners to say, I'm interested in continuing to serve. Okay, now that I look at this and I see this, yes, I am truly done. I'm gonna pass it back over to all of you and everybody else for the next one on the list.
Any comments from the committee? That you haven't already made? Okay. And let's talk about the next meeting, which January 13th.
There's the 14th, right?
This is the 13th.
It's 13th on here.
It's the 13th.
Okay. Yep. We'll continue forward. At that point in time, this location will work really well for us. We're gonna try and be hosting some other people next door. We have the opportunity to hear or next door. We're just trying to pick wherever we have the number of meetings and keep meeting space available to other people. So probably right here, online, in person.
Somebody will be sending out a calendar.
Yes. A calendar invite? Great. Just double checking that. Sorry, because I was like, I always look and get the agenda and just run from there.
You can email people and tell them when the meeting is. Send it on their calendar, and they'll like, I forgot.
I used to remember those things.
You don't have to. I got a computer for a break.
Right, can I ask you real quick? Has the USPS shakeups locally affected your guys' operations at all?
We've been coordinating very closely. Jason Gurski, I can't ever say his name right, is our local postmaster. We've been following, and we're a day later, 1 day later. Now, today I saw an ad, press release from Cascade County. And it was ballots mail with the new updated information. And I was, nice work. That seems to be ahead of the time frame where you can mail ballots. The first possible day you could mail ballots is today, isn't it? Or is it tomorrow? Tomorrow, Wednesday. In order to accommodate the mailing schedule for outgoing bulk mail, they now need 2 days. So I used to be able to deliver a Tuesday and get it out Wednesday. With the holiday yesterday, we could not get it coordinated. That's not totally true. We probably could have, but we like to give our team a little bit of extra wiggle room. So we finished our ballot preparation, getting the packets ready to go out a little bit ahead of time, which would have let us hit this date. But we don't want to operate in the, it's an emergency, let's get this done. So we coordinated and planned that we would deliver to them today. So our mailing house is delivering them to the USPS today. They'll be in their custody and they will be delivered to voters on Thursday. So we're 1 day behind. But this has been a really big focus within our office on the best ways to help educate, to help inform, and also kind of taking a look at the shift and changing things. Now that we're not on, we no longer are looking at candidate filing deadlines that are very late. Now that we are in Missoula County doing things like programming around ballot to give us more flexibility, we may actually be exploring a change in the legislative session to allow for more time to mail, to give a broader window. Because what caught us is if we wanted to mail on Wednesday, they needed to be there Monday. I guess it wasn't there Monday. So rather than trying to force it, working overtime, potentially being late and having to coordinate with all our partners, we thought ahead, planned ahead. And so we're basically seeing a 1 day delay, and wherever we can accommodate it, we're taking it on our side, and if not, we're just being really clear. Our mail date will be Thursday, our mail date will be Thursday. We still have X number of days, and now that we've seen each of these steps take place, I'm already looking at the next legislative session to say, maybe the fix is to give counties a larger window to be able to send them. Not force it and get it done.
Well, keeping in mind also, the very beginning of the time that we had to mail the ballots in, we're just 1 day later than the earliest that we could mail them.
Yeah, it's 20 days before to 15 days before.
Are they still all going out to Spokane and then coming back?
When they go out, they do not ever go to Spokane. And that has to do with our mailing house, our pre-sort and the bulk mailing. Because they're actually sorted into carrier order, which gives us a substantial discount. But that's like sort of process and that takes one longer day. So the difference is something like it's $1 to mail a packet compared to 14 cents. But it takes an extra day to go out and we're still hitting 19 days ahead of the election. So the press release from Cascade County, it will be mailing on the 20th. I was doing the math and I was like, well, that's the last day. But you're done. I really appreciate the hard work that our team puts in to coordinate this, and it is a little different, but we've really tried to limit those impacts on others. All right, that was a comment out of order. I was thinking about this.
Question?
Yeah.
Just so that that happened.
No, I learned from mistakes.
Then,
I move we adjourn.
we are adjourned.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a beautiful day.